Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome once again to Spiritual Times with Philip Solomon. I am he, and every week I try and come up with something to help you and have a look at what I've been asked to do and to provide advice, what have you. Hopefully, I wouldn't say I've got all the answers to everything, but after 45 years as a professional medium and being brought up in spiritualism with a wonderful mother who was a wonderful medium, father who also moved on to the ways of spiritualism and mediumship and other work. I would hope that I am sort of available to do that. I'll take a few notes because it's always difficult to remember. I think when you're doing these videos, they're short and you want to get as much information as you can. And well, tonight's subject really is people have been asking me a lot about mentoring for what we call fledgling mediums. That's those people who've been doing a lot of study, maybe at one of the colleges, this country or America. They're very good training, or maybe you've been lucky enough to have specialised training with individual medium teachers. That's something I've done for the last 30 years, really. And some of my mediums and healers and other workers that practice within the spiritual world have become not just very, I suppose, recognised people in that field, but excellent at the work they do. But what can I tell you really about mentoring a fledgling medium? I think you must provide a safe and structured environment for them to develop their gifts and focus on fundamental spiritual practices to start and install a strong ethical framework for them to follow. An experienced medium, who's also a teacher, generally acts as a guide and confidant, helping the novice build the confidence and integrity they need to communicate respectfully, responsibly, and successfully with the spirit world. Must always remember that it's not just about how well you can do, it's how well you can do to satisfy the people that you're doing the work for as a representative of spirit. I suppose laying the spiritual ground, I do apologise for forgetting my throat tonight. Laying the spiritual groundwork, a strong spiritual foundation, I think is essential for new mediums to avoid overwhelming themselves or misinterpreting their experiences and what level they're working at. It's very easy to do that. I mean, those who've trained with me will tell you, I think the important thing is to establish a daily quiet place and to encourage a foundation that says you're doing some meditation every day over a set period of a certain time. And this helps to sort of quieten, if you like, the mental storm and allows them to tune into their inner self and intuitive senses, because that's what all mediums have to do. Even those who was, I mean, I'm very lucky, I suppose, or unlucky as the case may be, to have been born a medium, to both parents being mediums already in their work. I think you need to encourage journalism and all as well. Keeping a journal will help track and process experience, dreams and intuitive insights, and the way that you have structured your learning. Always think back to those who first opened the doors for you and got you working as a medium, because they'll never ever really be better teachers than those ones who taught you to open that first door, come through it, and to start doing the work. And it's very important. That's why I call it journaling, really. I suppose from my background as a writer for major newspapers and magazines over the years, a better word would be keeping a notebook, really, of what you do. But that's the word that we would use in the teaching way, really, journaling. And it helps you really also to recognise patterns and discern between what were your own thoughts and outside communication from the spirit world, because it's very easy to confuse that and not be completely sure within yourself of what you're receiving. I suppose that's really where mentoring can be a great help. What I often used to do with my fledgling mediums, I'd arrange a night when we could take them to one of the local spiritualist churches, perhaps as a group if possible, and I would sit in the audience, congregation, I should say, I suppose, really, but it's the same thing, isn't it? I suppose I always reflect on working events and that, but in church, you would sit there and probably in the front row encouraging and tuning in and trying to help them, give them confidence. Of course, there are some trainee mediums who will say, well, the mentorship that I would want would be for you to come up beside me and work with me. I've not really greatly always encouraged that. I mean, I'll do it if that's what the student really wants. But I think you have to be very, very careful if you're offering that sort of help, that you don't step in too easy. Because it's very, very easy for an experienced medium, if you see your fledgling medium start to struggle and they're starting to grab at bits and pieces that, try and fit a message together that's acceptable. And those people out there in the congregation are looking blank or being the old coin statement, I'll take that with me, which generally means they have no idea what you're giving them, but they're being kind to you. But that will not really help with your development. So it's horses for courses, isn't it, really? I mean, if you're having a professional medium to come along and work with you, there's also the cost concerns that you'll have to look at. You'll probably have to pay certainly their travel expenses. It would be unprofessional not to offer them their travel expenses and perhaps a small fee for appearing with you. For someone like me, I rarely charge churches. I don't even take expenses if I'm doing services for them. But there again, I mean, if you're travelling 60, 70, 80 mile, to mentor a fledgling medium who's decided that she wants, or he wants to sort of demonstrate in mediumship at, I don't know, Luton or London or something, and they live in Birmingham, if you've got to follow them and help them, there's got to certainly be costs there that would be there. Of course, if they've done workshops with you and trained with you, then I think you can find a little bit of leniency to try and help them coming forward with the wonderful work that they want to do. Because that's what it is. Mediumship, first and foremost, you have to have a very kind wish to help people. And then you have to have on top of that, and even more important, a wish to help spirit to bring through and give the messages and the offers of guidance that they want to do, which is even more important really than developing and helping your fledgling medium. But, I mean, what I would say is foster care, foster self-care. Mediumship can be very energetic and emotionally demanding. Mentors should emphasize the importance of good sleep, healthy lifestyle, good nutrition, and setting helpful boundaries to prevent burnout and remaining grounded. Now, I'm going to emphasize that's very important. Some fledgling mediums, will very quickly want to get up there and start giving, demonstrations of mediumship before they're really ready to do it. And what happens, you have failures, you realize yourself that you're not getting through what you would want to be getting through, and on a very high level, at the level you would always want it to be, I hope. But the problem is you can also very quickly get burnt out by disappointments. It's always best, really, the best mentorship advice that you can get is always start going up on the rostrum and doing your work when your medium teacher tells you it is the time to do it. Now, you might not be very pleased about that and thinking, oh, I want to get up there and do it straight away. I want to serve, I want to help spirit. And I would commend you for that. But at the same time, the worst thing you can do is get up and start doing the work before you're really ready, because it can set you back so much. And I've seen so many, how would I put them? I can't put it tactfully, really. Not students of mine, really, but I've seen some fledgling mediums who are up there, and it's clear to me that they're nowhere near ready to be doing that work up on the rostrum. You know, they're a long way from doing that work. And the strange thing is, I often think to myself, what a shame. What a great shame for themselves and for spirit, because clearly I can see real ability there in that person, and an intention to do this work for spirit is certainly there, but they're not ready. They're not ready. And it will catch you out. It will catch you out, I'm afraid. Foster self-care. Mediumship, as I say, can be very energetically and emotionally demanding. Mentors should emphasize the importance, as I've already said, of getting plenty of sleep, good nutrition, and, sort of learning to understand the boundaries that between psychic work and mediumship. That can be very, very hard for mediums in the early days. Gosh, I go out and see, well, they're not probably in the spiritualist church, I would hope, but I see them, working at pubs and other venues and whatnot. And the work that they do is very, very good, but it's what I would call psychic work. It's not really what I would call mediumship. And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, many people do receive excellent readings through psychic work, but that is not really what I would call, mediumship work. I always used to say, if you can, if you're going to talk about, you can see a nice lady with that person with nice hair and all that. Well, what's her name? If you're tuning into spirit, what's the lady's name? What was the people that she loved in spirit? What were their names? Come on. What's the surname? Information like that. Now you're going to say to me, come on, Philip. That's very hard for early mediumship. It is. It is. But the problem is, some people would go along working psychically in that way forever and ever, and never make that step forward of doing what they really should be if they want to become mediums, working with mediumship. It's psychic work, that type of work. I sense there's a change in the job for you, and I feel that you're unhappy around home situations. There's nothing wrong with that, but that's working on a psychic level. If you have a person from the other side who wants to bring through specific information to those that they love and care about in this side, you've got to give a lot more than that. And it's not good you saying, oh, well, that's all very well, you saying that, Philip, because if you've been and seen me, I mean, I'm semi-retired these days, but I still do the occasional demonstration. But if you've seen me in the past, you know that that's what I do. I would give you names, surnames. Gosh, we've even got telephone numbers and the people's addresses and things of that nature. Have to be a bit coy about giving that out, obviously, but that's what real mediums can do. If you think of the great ones, like I suppose my mum's great friend, wouldn't say my mum was quite capable of doing that as well. But, I mean, you think of Gordon Higginson and people like that, Estelle Roberts, oh, I could go on forever. Some of the old mediums, really. Even lovely Doris Collins. I know she used to go out and work the theatres and do all the events and that, but she'd also always give some time, good, meaningful messages with names and information that is infallible. You can't think, well, anybody knows that I would have had a mom who's got nice hair and, very occasionally she wore a cap, a cap, a father or a grandfather who very occasionally wore his cap and was always very gentlemanly in the way he carried himself. It's nice. It's a lovely way of working. But is it mediumship? I'm not sure. That's where a good mentor will come in and help you to give the sort of information that I hope your fledgling mediums want to be aiming towards doing. I suppose you have to help. I suppose you have to help fledglings as well to connect with their guides, explain that spirit guides and helpers are present to offer support and protection all the time. If you have trust and you know that they're there, You've said a little prayer before you do your work. You've put your psychic protection in place, and you're reaching out to be a tool to spirit. They won't let you down. They won't let you down. Your guides, your workers, those are people who work with you. Let them guide you in practices to meet and communicate with these guides who can act as their, if you like, their support network and teachers. You may have heard me often saying from, I don't know whether it's been in a theatre or a spiritualist church many years ago, I talk about the Aya network. And it's a good example, Reggie, because it's not always your guide who comes from. There's an old plethora, really, of there of people who would be choosing to come back and work with you. Remember, there are many levels of existence in the spirit world, many, many levels. Most of your loved ones will go to what I call the second level of existence. But even those who are wicked and terrible and commit awful crimes will still go over to the other side. They're on the first level of existence, but everyone has the opportunity in spirit to progress and grow, you know. But most of your loved ones will come really, your loved ones, as you know and recognise, on the second level of existence, where generally your guides and the higher network who will work with the medium come from on a little bit higher level than that. And you have to have the experience to link with them and bring forth and do the work that they want. I think new mediums often struggle and find it difficult to understand the difference between true spirit communication and their own, what I would call psychic insights. I'm not going to go on about it too much, but it is very important. Your role, I'm talking about those of you who are working as mentors now, is to help them develop clear and reliable communication. That is your role if you're working as a mentor. First and foremost, that is what you must strive to do. Because we've talked a lot about helping the people who want to do the work, but also let us offer a little voice, a bit of advice for those who are acting as mentors too. Guides don't tell you rather than simply giving you the mentee the answer. Help them develop independently, learn thinking, accountability, encourage them to figure things out for themselves with your guidance. And then they will find it easy to link with guides and those in the IR network. Right, practicing with a partner. Now, this is one that it's an old chestnut that I've often come across over many years, where I've seen even students who I've had, and so I'm going to go up and work with Jill, or I'm going to work with Bill, or Tony, or Harold. We're going to work together and give each other support. Mm. It can be successful and it can be helpful. Certainly, it'll give you a lot more confidence. But I think you have to be careful as you don't sort of fall over each other, really, in your links with your workers from the other side. I think it's much better, really, if you have a good mentor. If you can get a mentor to come up and work with you, that would be fine. I suppose that would be a really wonderful opportunity for you because they'll remain detached and only step in and help the individual when he or she needs it. But if you're up there with your friends, as I say, Doris or Billy, and you're sort of working together, I'm not too sure how much progress that brings, really. But, if you find that it works and you feel comfortable with it, I will never say don't do something like that. But it's not what I would probably teach. I think a better way really is to have a good professional mentor, just off the background there, like in that first row in the audience, or maybe upside you if they've worked with you and you really feel that you need them with you. But as I say, that's probably going to be costly for you because they're going to need to travel, probably not do the work that evening that they would be doing unless they're retired. Someone like me can often offer that sort of mentorship because I'm sort of semi-retired these days and don't do a great deal. I used to have a career in television and radio for 25 years. So if I took time off, it had its difficulties. But if you want to practice with a partner, then what I would suggest is practicing readings with a trusted partner. This is moving away from now upon the rostrum. It can be invaluable when building confidence and receiving feedback. So I didn't used to train in this way, but some medium teachers will have you sit opposite each other in a table with a chair at either side and basically practice on each other. I think that can work, but it wasn't something that I always favoured when I was teaching and taking circles, because more often than not, it's only natural that you pair up with your best friend, your mate, and you probably already know quite a bit about each other. And if you're working psychically, you might think, oh gosh, that's incredible. Look at what he or she is telling me. But when you stop and think, you know each other so well, it's not that useful, really. So if you're going to work like that and you really feel it's going to be beneficial to you, the best thing is to pair up with someone that you don't know. For me, the good old-fashioned circle, when it doesn't matter if there's 10 of you or 150, you all sit around you with a good medium teacher and take your turn at seeing what you can give off. And if you can pick out individuals in the circle, especially those you don't know, wonderful opportunity and practice for you. I would stress the honesty and transparency as well to teach your people. And this is more for teachers, what we're talking in a minute about those who are offering mentorship, to be truthful about their abilities and to avoid what I call unnecessarily sort of building them up. It's very easy with someone that you're teaching or you're developing. So that's fantastic. You're doing marvelous. And you might do that as a trainer, thinking, oh, I want to give them, the opportunity to have some support, not to be, being put down. But always remind them that it is better to say a message that is incomplete and doesn't mean that much to you. Time and time again, you'll find when you give it, it does. We all have that experience. We all have that experience. I'll quote something, it's moving away really from mentorship, but I always remember being at a big venue and a gentleman coming through and saying, gosh, I can remember it now. And I never remember messages. End of big stage shows, people that I would come out and give healing free, but I could never do link up and talk about messages and that the way some of the so-called stage mediums work. I'm not saying that there's anything wrong in that or they shouldn't do, but for me, once I've done a message, generally it's gone and forgot. I always sort of taught my trainees that's the way it should be as well. It's not really for you. It's to be passed on and forgotten about, really. That's the right way to do it. And also ensure confiance. I'm trying to say confidentiality, and I can't spit it out. Emphasize that all information received during the reading really is personal and confidential. I've been able to say it now. So I think that proves my view that you don't really ought to be discussing what the message is that you've given, even from the stage, if you're a very experienced medium. Let those people think about it and work it out for themselves. If it's a good enough message, they'll understand it and they will get the meaning without you, as a medium, feeling the need to over expand it. Because it happens, and I've seen some very famous mediums who I've seen do that. And, I'm a bit too far experienced for me to mentor them, maybe, but maybe a quiet word occasionally wouldn't go amiss. Always set clear boundaries as well. As a mentor, we're talking about being a mentor now. As a mentor, model appropriate boundaries by defining the length and frequencies of your meetings and the scope of your relationship with those that you're sitting with and developing. Teach your students to do the same with their clients and with those that they work with in the future, because one day they will become teachers as well, won't they? And it's very important to set clear boundaries. That's what I think is very good, really, when you get up there to try and work on your own if you possibly can. But I've seen some great mediums who work together, and that's fine. One time I used to have my daughter, very gifted lass, and she used to do all psychic art. I'd give her a message and she'd draw a picture or sketch a picture of the person. Wonderful work. She doesn't choose to work in the field now at all, That's fair play to her, but she was very good. And there's an instance of where sometimes you can work with another medium with a gift, maybe a psychic artist or something like that. You know, when the fledgling maiden is ready, provide the pathways for them and give them the opportunities to progress as best as you possibly can. But always remember, progress comes from spirit. You can't rush it too much. You have to take your time. Some of these people, they think they can run before they can walk. They want to be up on the rostrum when they've only been, sitting in a development circle for a few weeks. Maybe they are naturally gifted, but in my experience, it takes time to learn to be very professional about your work. So if you're looking for a mentor, look for a very good one who's had years of experience, who's trained you if at all possible. Or if not, look to do as many workshops as you can that works on, the sort of work that a mentor would teach you. Stagecraft is another one. So many young psychics today and people who want to work as mediums, they want to work on the stage, don't they? And so, oh, Philip, I want to work on the Hippodrome or the Grand Theatre or the Prince of Wales. I want to do. I've seen you do all that work, Philip. I want to do that. But they forget that I had a mentor, my mother, who was one of the best mediums in the country. She didn't travel much around. She stayed local to her own church and enjoyed the work of developing others. But I had that training, you know. Stage work, you need to have a little bit of stagecraft as well. If you're going to do that sort of work, it's great if you can find somebody who can teach you a little bit of, I wouldn't say amateur dramatics, that would not be appropriate, but how to conduct yourself and have confidence on stage, because you won't have the time or the same way to work with people in that sort of audience as you would do in a small church with perhaps 20 people in front of you. If you've got 1,000 people in front of you, it's a lot more pressure. But if you trust in spirit and you've trained and you developed, I won't let you down. Won't be any different. You'll be okay. You'll be fine. So my final word then on mentorship, is it good? Yes, of course it is. But perhaps you'd like to think about the advice that I've offered to you. And if you do find someone who's willing to give you mentorship, you're very, very lucky. Treasure that they're prepared to offer for you. And never stop doing your workshops. Never stop working with other people. I still, even me, after all these years, I still think there are things that I would like to learn from certain people, and I do. And that's what it's all about. Mentorship is guidance to give the fledgling medium a pathway to be the very best that they can be in working for spirit. Well, that's it, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining me this evening, mate. Same time, same place next week for Spiritual Times with me, Philip Solomon. 7 o'clock every Thursday. And keep coming in with the subjects that you'd like me to look and address. And I hope this one's been helpful for you tonight, whether you're beginners, intermediate, or working mediums. There's always scope to learn, isn't there? Again, I'll say good night and God bless. Bye bye then. Bye bye.